This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Today's video is brought to you by Sheath. In just a moment, I'm going to talk about an offer exclusive to you and my audience that I truly believe will benefit you as it has benefited me. Before I get to that, though, I want to preface what I'm going to talk about. A lot has happened this last week. The Republican Party has censured or admonished two of its members, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. And in that particular censure statement, they said that Cheney and Kinzinger are participating in a Democrat-led persecution of ordinary citizens who engaged in legitimate political discourse, calling the January 6th insurrection legitimate political discourse. So apparently the RNC believes it is appropriate to go to your Republican congressman's office with bear spray and spray him in the face. That's legitimate political discourse to the Republican Party. The party of law and order, the party of Blue Lives Matter, back the blue and all that. Well, it has created a rift in the Republican Party. 150 or so members have come out and condemned or spoken ill of this particular move to admonish Kinzinger and Cheney. And now there's a battle between the two cowards in the House and the Senate. The leaders of the House of Representatives in the Republican Party and the minority leader, Mitch McConnell. Two cowards to be sure, but they're handling this in two completely different ways. One far more ridiculous than the other. And we're going to talk about that on the other side. But before we do, a word from today's sponsor, Sheath. Look, I'm a big guy. I work in the studio all day that's filled with lights and electronics. And all that tech can really crank up the heat, leaving me pretty uncomfortable. And I'm not just talking about the parts of me that you can see above the desk. Thankfully, there's Sheath underwear. Sheath makes boxers scientifically engineered to keep some parts from sticking to your other parts. Sheath were invented by a U.S. Army veteran serving a tour in Iraq, and as a former Marine who spent some time in similar climes and places, I can clearly see where the inspiration comes from. These boxers have 3 separate compartments to keep, again, your parts partitioned and protected. Chafage got you down? Do you routinely find that your D is getting stuck to your B's? Get yourself immediately over to sheathunderwear.com/Dollemore to score 20% off the future of underwear. Being 6'3", I have always had trouble finding boxers that fit well because my quads tend to make them ride up and bunch. Not so with Sheath. Their slightly longer 8-inch boxers are my favorites and are a perfect fit that give me zero trouble. Seriously, don't your parts deserve a break from your other parts? Head to sheathunderwear.com/Dollemore or click the link in the description below for 20% off right now. You'll be thanking me and your parts will be thanking you. So if you watch politics, and I'm sure you do because you're here, if you were looking for a toy unboxing video, you've stumbled in the wrong channel. That's not what I do here. But if you follow politics, you know that Mitch McConnell has a certain timbre to the way he operates, and Kevin McCarthy has a certain tone to the way he operates. Vastly different characters. One is turning out to be far more obsequious of Donald Trump, far more bootlicking, more fond of the taste of Donald Trump's boot polish. I'm going to play a video here of Mitch McConnell from yesterday where he openly, flatly, plainly, directly says that what happened on January 6th was not a tourist event. It was not a happy family reunion. It was not a trespassing event. It was a violent insurrection. Watch this.
Is it appropriate for the Republican National Committee to censure two sitting members of Congress and also use the words legitimate political discourse in talking about January 6th?
Well, let me give you my view of what happened January the 6th. And we're here. We saw what happened. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election from one administration to the next. That's what it was. With regard to the suggestion that the RNC should be in the business of picking and choosing Republicans who ought to be supported, traditionally the view of the national party committees is that we support all members of our party, regardless of their positions on some issues.
Do you have confidence in her, Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman of the committee?
I do, but the issue is whether or not the RNC should be sort of singling out members of our party who may have different views from the majority. That's not the job of the RNC.
Now, look, I'm not going to do what many people have been doing and saying, well, credit where credit is due. He's finally coming out and saying it. For me, in Jesse D world, you don't get points for stating the obvious. You don't get points for calling the sky blue when everybody sees that it's blue. It's not like, oh, finally, wow, good for him. To say that it was a violent insurrection with the purpose of trying to prevent a peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election from one administration to the other doesn't give you brownie points. For one, if you know and believe, because you were there, that it was a violent insurrection with the sole purpose of preventing the peaceful transfer of power, and then you vote to acquit Donald Trump on impeachment charges, that means that you voted against the interest of the American people willfully and knowingly. It makes you more of a sinister character than we even thought. I want to juxtapose this against what's happening in the House of Representatives with the brown noser extraordinaire. We'll keep this more civil than I sometimes do. Kevin McCarthy, a real piece of work, an unmitigated coward who's literally running away from reporters in the halls of Congress to avoid questions. Rachel Scott, who's a reporter for ABC, tweeted this yesterday. I tried to ask GOP leader Kevin McCarthy about the RNC's resolution describing January 6th as legitimate political discourse. He told me to make an appointment with his office, insisting it's not good to answer questions in the hallways. And Kevin McCarthy was running so quickly away, retreating, that it's only a 5-second video. There's only 5 seconds of him because he's darting around like a maniac. Watch this.
You know what? Make an appointment in office. Come on all the time, okay? It's not good to do interviews.
And if you think that maybe that's a legitimate excuse because the hallways are echoey or whatever, earlier in the day, the same reporter, Rachel Scott, asked him and got an answer to a question in a hallway. Watch this.
I think there was legitimate political discourse on January 6th.
Yeah, everybody knows there was. Anyone who broke inside.
Yeah. To that, she tweeted earlier, Leader McCarthy did answer my question in the hallway. Do you believe there were legitimate political discourse on January 6th? To which Kevin McCarthy, as you just heard, said everyone knows there was, anyone who broke inside. So his initial response, Freudian slip or not, is that anybody who broke inside the Capitol, which was a violent insurrection, was legitimately having a discourse with their leaders. His office, she continues, later clarified he intended to say anyone who broke inside was not taking part in political discourse. Look, this is where we are in America right now, where we have two political parties of any note, of any power. And one is backing an attempted overthrow of the United States government. And only a few of its leaders are pushing back against the narrative that it was Antifa or Black Lives Matter, or that it was a tourist event or a happy family reunion or legitimate political discourse. We don't have to give Mitch McConnell a ton of credit for stating the obvious, because it is the obvious. But it is more important now than ever to be engaged, to get organized, to stay active in politics, to get to the polls this November, to take part in the primaries in May or June or whenever they are in your particular district. Because if not, you're going to see running Kevin McCarthy, retreating Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House of Representatives. You're going to see Mitch McConnell as Majority Leader again. We can't handle that as a country. We cannot withstand the stressors that will place on the system. Our democracy cannot withstand it. Please get involved. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. I'm @Dollemore. That is sometimes a good time. You can scream at me there. Tell me I'm wrong. Or tell me that you appreciate what I do. If I do bring you value, and if you do appreciate what I do, please just consider supporting my work here on the platform. For as little as $2 a month, you can click the join button below this video, become a channel member, or you can head on over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. I will see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.